can I coach in the professional game? I am currently coaching a semi-pro adults team. What advice would you give to me?
Well, I think the big thing is try and be as professional as you possibly can, regardless of what level you're coaching at. I think you need to have a structure to whether your week consists of Saturday to Saturday like a professional would be, or whether you just train 1 or 2 nights a week. I think every player now has the capability of turning on his iPhone and his computer and seeing top quality sessions. And I think the old-fashioned slip of a fag packet or a piece of paper and you drag that out on a Monday night and a Tuesday night, I'm not too sure any player reacts to that in a positive way. So I think you need to be organised. I think you need to have a structure to what you want to do. You need to have guidelines, clear guidelines on a Saturday on how you want the team to play. But also, you need to have that communication, and you need to make sure that when you do get that opportunity, and you see that opportunity that perhaps develops where you can progress, you need to make sure that you can really press that button when you decide, because we all want to be the best we possibly can, of course, and sometimes an opportunity will come perhaps at a challenging time, and you've got to be brave enough to take that. So if you're a coach managing perhaps lower down the pyramid and an opportunity presents itself where you need to show a little bit of bravery, then push it, push that button, challenge yourself. Well, they're tough, aren't they? Because you've always try and go back to your own experiences, as a player, as a coach or a manager, and try and remember what it felt like, whether you was a player, coach or a manager. And I think the big thing for me as a player, I always wanted to be in direct dialogue with the coaches and the managers. I didn't want my manager to go quiet on me. I didn't want the coaches to perhaps do something completely alien to what we've been doing. Show consistency. Have the foresight and the knowledge and back yourself that what you're doing is right to start with. But you might just want to throw something different in the situation where you might want to break the week up slightly different. You might want to go and take them on a team building exercise. It might be a case where the boys want to go and have a social night together. It might be something where individually you focus on the positives of the players as opposed to highlighting the negatives of what's got you in that position all the time. So yeah, change the environment slightly, but stay consistent to what your own beliefs are. Well, as we know, set plays are major in every level, whether it's the Premier League or whether it's a part-time football club, that so many goals are going to be scored and conceded by set plays. So I had a situation a few years back where I wanted to be a little bit more creative in our set plays, and I looked at the Premier League, because you always try and go to the very top, and at that moment in time Bournemouth were fantastic of scoring and making chances from set plays. So have a look, have a look at these top teams, have a look at the goals that are scored on a weekend. We all watch the Quest and the match of the day, and you see all the different goals that are scored. Clip them, clip all the goals, and then just see which ones could perhaps suit you as a football club, and challenge yourself into trying to perhaps copy someone's or try and manipulate someone's set play. Well, obviously the pro game is a full-time game. We have the facilities on offer that allow us to train 6 days a week, mornings and afternoons, and I think when you fall out of the full-time and you go into a semi-pro and you're only training Tuesdays and Thursdays, the likelihood is that your fitness levels are going to firstly drop over the course of time. So you've got to be aware of that. You've got to be prepared to put your own work in, your own time. Gym sessions are major. Perhaps you can find little cluster groups that are working on different days to where you'll be training on a Tuesday and a Thursday night. But also, being driven. Keep yourself believing that another challenge and another option is going to be around the corner. Don't lose hope. Don't lose your dreams, because we've all got them. We all want to go and be the best we possibly can. So just because you've fallen out, that doesn't mean that the journey's ended. Even if you're a young player or a middle-aged player, it only takes, you know what it's like, it only takes 3-6 months of being right on top of your game, and you just never know who's watching. So you've got to make sure you're in the right physical frame of mind, so your extras are massive, and mentally you've got to make sure that you adopt a real clinical mental stream as well. Cool, that's tough question. You know, I've been very fortunate to play with some seriously good players, spanning a number of clubs, so I've actually done this before, and I suppose I should copy that really. Goalkeeper would be Julian Speroni. You know, just in terms of his shot stopping, at certain moments in the game he was unbelievably agile around the box. Clear leadership qualities in terms of what he was as a goalkeeper, and a true personality, you know, a real respected figure at Crystal Palace. So Julian would be in goal. I played with a left back at Sheffield United called Wayne Quinn. I think left backs, I always look at left backs and I think left footers are so different culturally to what a right footer would be. You know, he had a real cultured left foot, and at the moment I think he was about 21, 22, Wayne, and he was going to go to Newcastle for real big money, and unfortunately he was hampered by cruciate ligament problems, and that really affected Wayne. But he was a wonderful player, he really was. You know, could get up and down the wing, delivery was just impeccable, set plays were brilliant. So Wayne would be my left back. Clint Hill as a leader, just as a captain, as a real tough opponent. You never knew when he was beaten. Found a way of managing the opponent, whether he was quick, whether he was strong and aggressive. Clint always had something in his own armoury that could counter that, and he was a real dependable character as well. Centre half was Ryan Nelson. Ryan was coming towards the end of his career, and we signed him for QPR. And again, look at like the dependability and the reliability of a leader. And Clint on the left and Ryan was on the right, and they just had brilliant examples of communication as well. Not both of them weren't really blessed with pace, but they just knew how to read a game. You know, that first kind of 2 or 3 yards was always in the head. And Ryan, I played just in front of Ryan, and he was always edging me in certain positions, which made it easy for my game as well. So, you know, in terms of a standout defensive pair, I'll put them two together. And on the right was Steve Finnan. You know, Steve played with me at Notts County, but further on down his career made his name at Liverpool, and was like one of the first modern fullbacks who, you know, kind of call them wing backs if you like. Spent a lot of his game above and beyond the halfway line, and his qualities into the ball was just, into the box with the football was just, you know, really consistent. But consistency as a personality as well. You know, he was a tough, hard-working fullback who, you know, really knew what his strengths were and really focused on them as well. But professionally, the professionalism off the pitch as well. Steve was like one of the first guys who would always spend time doing post-session stretches, and his diet was just amazing. So it was kind of real learning curve for me. As a midfielder, Joey Barton I would put in to the midfield because of his just his ruthlessness as a player. You know, he was such a driven character anyway, and he would drive training sessions and he would drive matches for you. Wouldn't let anybody rest on the laurels, and, you know, was kind of on you all the time. And I liked that. You know, sometimes some people would say it was a little bit too much, but I think you needed to be a certain type of character to understand what Joey was all about. And, you know, I had a good relationship with Joey, so I put Joey in the midfield. Alongside him was a left midfielder at QPR, Alejandro Forlan. I think Forlan at the time was about 22, 23 when I played with him, and he was just on the edge of a call up for the Argentina first team, you know, the senior squad. And you just knew he was going to go on to big things, great things, being linked with a lot of top clubs. think at QPR, Liverpool were interested in him at one point, and he was that creative influence. You know, he was always show, you know, always reliable in terms of presenting himself. And when he got hold of the ball, he had so many attributes. Could fade a pass, could drive a pass, could whip a pass, and he'd always look to play forward. And I thought that was great for me, because I was a deep midfielder who could, you know, pass to the more gifted ones, and he was definitely one of them. Adel Taarabt, you know, the season he had at QPR was beyond ridiculous. I think he scored about 20 goals and set up 20. You know, singly, he was so creative. Come to life in the final third. You wouldn't really trust him in the defensive third or the midfield, but when we got in and around the box, he just made things happen. He was like a magician. He used to do things on the training pitch that took your breath away. I often came off thinking, if he doesn't play for a major football club, you know, his career would have probably been, he'd have undercut himself really. I suppose his mentality let him down to a degree, but for that 12 months at QPR, he was incredible. Robert Prosinecci at Portsmouth. He was coming to the end of his career, but again a superstar. You know, he arrived having played for Barcelona and Real Madrid, and he had this chop in the locker. You know, he sent people kind of on the floor, and he'd chop and he'd come back again and he'd chop again, and he was just unbelievable. Set plays, killer balls, goals, free kicks. He was just a remarkable footballer, but a great down-to-earth character as well. I suppose at the top would have to be Peter Crouch. Big Crouch, he was great at Portsmouth, played with him there, and we all know the career that he's gone on to have. But I think the thing for Crouchy was, people look at him being 6'7" and say he's just good in the air. Well, he wasn't. You know, his movement was excellent. You know, he knew how to pull off kind of play off the back of a centre half. He knew that he wasn't quick, so he would always drift into little holes, and you knew that he was reliable in terms of his goal scoring. You know, he'd constantly hit 20 goals a season. I think his goals per game record for England is one of the best. You know, he was a remarkable player, he really was. And then to the polar opposite, that would be Andy Johnson. Andy Johnson for Palace was just a goal machine, he really was. I think the year we got promoted into the Premier League, I think he smashed about 20 goals from Christmas time onwards, and he was the go-to guy. You know, he was the guy who did have the pace. Where you talk about the likes of Crouch, you didn't, and you needed to play a certain type of way into Big Pete. You knew that if he was in trouble, you could flick one round the corner and AJ would be on it, and he'd link and he'd get himself in the box, and his qualities in the 18-yard box were brilliant. Score headers, score loads of headers for someone so small. But he was always the one who kind of got in between centre halves, and more often than not, if he scored, we'd won.